Welcome to Basic Brewing Video. I'm James Spencer.
I'm Steve Wilkes.
Welcome to the second part of our two-part series on this, what did I call it?
Seat of your pants.
Partigyle.
Partigyle. And that's not P-A-R-T-Y, that's P-A-R-T-I.
That's right.
Yes.
Now, if you turned into the first part, which I would advise you to do, if you haven't already.
Watch them in order.
But the first part, Partigyle, why don't you give a brief explanation, a brief reminder of what a Partigyle brew is?
A Partigyle brew is essentially brewing more than one beer from a single grain bill. Mm-hmm. In a nutshell, that's it. You can either remash the grains or you can reflood the grain and just pull a second or even a third runnings.
Right.
That's basically Partigyle brewing.
That's it.
Yep.
So in the first part, we talked about the big beer, the higher gravity beer that you're brewing from the grains.
Right.
This one, we are going into the second part with the smaller beer, and it'll be interesting. We're in the past. It'll be interesting to see what's going to happen in the future, especially since we're enjoying this delicious.
That's right.
11% alcohol cherry chocolate imperial stout from Mike in Kelseyville, California. Cheers to Mike.
Cheers to Mike.
But you are going to use your jazz sensibilities
To improvise.
And
not lose the form. Or rush.
Here we go. Okay, Steve, I feel like that we're shooting Back to the Future 2 and 3 at the same time.
We kind of are.
Because behind you is the big beer.
This is a big beer.
Coming up to a boil.
Yep.
We've collected the wort.
As soon as I turn the power on, it will come up to a boil.
Is that what's taking so long? Okay, so what we have here is
This is the little beer.
what do we got? What do
We've got the grain, the entire 15 pounds of grain, and we have pulled our first runnings off. That's the big beer. This is about right at 3 gallons of water, brought up to 170 degrees Fahrenheit, and reflooded the grains. Then we'll pull that off, and that's our little beer.
Right. That's the second beer, the second running.
Second runnings.
And so we will. The gravity is to be determined.
We don't know what it is at the moment.
So this is essentially batch sparging.
Yeah.
Only in batch sparging you would combine both the first runnings and the second runnings.
Absolutely.
This time we are separating the first runnings and the second runnings. We're making a beer out of each.
I call this Red Sea beer.
Which goes along with the holiday season.
That's right.
For some reason, I don't know.
Wrong holiday, but it's working. At any rate, this is the small beer, and I think it's going to probably come in about 10:35 to 10:40, and it'll just make a nice little session beer.
So you're going to probably stir that up a little bit to make sure all the sugars are
Already did.
Oh,
It's already stirred up.
well.
There you go.
Okay.
So actually, say that again. Let me get my.
Okay, we will stir up the grains. You got it in the iodophore. You got your. This is a handy thing that Steve does, which may be a tip for everybody. That is an iodophore solution bath.
Yes.
That everything. Although that technically doesn't need to be sanitized, but it's in there anyway.
I just kind of keep everything rinsed off and kind of store it over there while I'm doing it. That way, I don't have to worry about bugs. I'm not Michael Tonsmeyer, But who is?
No. Although we wish we were, because
kidding.
he brews awesome beers
That's for sure.
with the bugs in his house. Anyway, so you're gonna stir that. We're gonna do a Vorloff to make sure we get clean.
Yes. And
wort.
then we'll
go from there.
We'll go from there.
All right. What are you doing, Steve?
I'm making some really bad bread. No, I'm crunching these specialty grains. This is 8 ounces of black patent malt and 8 ounces of chocolate malt. So instead of putting these in the mash, if I were making 5 gallons of stout or porter, instead of mashing these in, I held them out so that I could have 2 completely different worts. So I'm going to add these into the little beer, which will give me a stout.
So you're going to steep them
I'm going to steep them.
as if
Like
you were
it.
steeping these grains in an extract beer.
That's right.
Only you're steeping them in the wort of an all-grain beer that has been drawn from the second runnings of the wort. Brilliant!
It's just phenomenal. So yes, that's what I'm doing. But you know, you got to crack these. You can't just put them in there like they are. And it's not really enough to run through a mill. Though if I had a little hand mill like you've got at home, I would do that.
Right.
But I don't have one.
It'll do the trick.
But this will work just fine. And you don't want to pulverize it. You don't want to make flour out of it. You just want to crack them. You just want to delicately let them blossom.
A little Mayim Biolink reference there. But we'll put them into a grain bag.
That's right.
And we'll steep them as the wort is coming up to a boil.
Yes.
Okay, this is the wort for our second beer. Mm-hmm. And Steve has got a used diaper of some sort.
We call it cheesecloth in the culinary world. And it's 8 ounces of crushed black patent malt, 8 ounces of crushed chocolate malt. And we're just going to put it right in there and let it steep.
This is just like you would do with an extract batch.
Yep.
Except you wouldn't use a colonial diaper. There it goes.
And there it goes. Oh, that looks good. And over here's the big beer.
Oh, yeah.
And it's starting to do its thing. We're going to have to add some hops to that.
Yeah. Refer to episode 1 of the Buy Your Pants, Seat of Your Pants Partigyle. See, this is exactly like
This is really
shooting episode 2 and 3 of Back to the Future.
Yes. Except there's no trains involved.
Hey, Marty! Ah! Hey, Marty! Ah!
All right, so here's our little porter that we're making. It's turning out to be a porter, which my wife loves, by the way. And I'm going to add 1/4 of an ounce of Chinook to this. Nice big alpha acid hop, but just add this right at the very beginning, and that's going to be the whole hops in the whole beer, all the hops in the whole beer.
So for a 60-minute boil,
Yep.
it's 1/4 of an ounce of Chinook, and that's it.
That's it.
And maybe some surprises
Yes.
later on for beer number 2.
For beer number 2.
Because even though, I mean, at 1035, starting gravity before you pre-boil, it's a decent gravity beer.
Sure.
But you won't let that alone.
No. Who would do that?
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. All right, so we've been at the boil now for about a half an hour, and because I'm not happy with this 1035 original gravity, I want to kick it up a little bit. So 8 ounces of light brown sugar that'll up the alcoholic content and make it a little bit more like the British are really fond of adding some sugar to their beers. So here we go.
How do you dance so good?
How you done so good? Oh yeah. This is going to be a really, really nice beer.
Meanwhile, the big beer is still boiling over there.
It's doing its thing. This is the big barley wine.
But that's from our last episode.
Yes, we made this already.
Yeah.
It's I
done.
don't know. I've got a Carl Sagan thing that's about ready to ha! I got a hitch in my get along. All right, so here's our little beer. It's completely ready to go. I'm going to cool it down. It'll probably take about 15 or 20 minutes this time of year. Groundwater is nice and cold. It's December. So we'll chill this down and pitch our yeast.
And remind us again, because if you've watched the first episode, you know where the yeast is coming from. But remind us again.
It's coming from here.
It's a starter.
This is a starter. I call it Amarillo Slim. It's it's about 3/4 of a gallon of water, 1 pound of dry light malt extract, DML whatever, and an ounce of Amarillo hops, pellet hops.
Boiled for 15 minutes.
15-minute boil. I could literally let this work itself out and have a smash beer, but instead I'm going to take about half of it. I'm going to pitch it into this beer, and the other half goes into the big barley wine beer that we've made.
So that's Saf Ale USO5
Yep.
that you did. So so there's a ton of Amarillo
Ton of hops in
flavor in there.
But not really any bitterness because it only boiled for 15 minutes.
Right. And it'll be interesting to pair that with the roasty, molassesy stuff that we've got going in there, which I think would be
This
awesome.
is going to be just totally awesome.
It's going to be so good. So we're at an hour boil with that. We're going to shut off the heat, and we're going to chill it, and we're going to pitch half of that yeast starter along with half of the yeast starter for the big beer that we did. And that's our Partigyle. And so Steve, how cool is this? How that we've got two beers in one day.
2 beers in one.
And they're small beers, and as far as volume goes.
Yeah.
But if you had a bigger brew system, you could brew 2 5-gallon batches. We've done 2 2-gallon or so systems.
Approximately 2.5-gallon batches. I'm going to put them into these fermenters. These are 2.5-gallon carboys that I get from a company in Hot Springs.
Mountain Valley Water,
Yes.
my hometown, Mountain Valley.
And
Unpaid plug.
that's right. And so at any
Those
rate,
are probably 3 gallon, or are they 2.5?
they're 2.5 gallons.
Oh, okay.
And so I'll, fill each one of these up. We'll pitch the yeast into them, and in about 3 weeks to a month, we'll have a couple of really nice beers.
And everybody will be happy.
Everyone will be happy.
Thanks, Steve, for the use of your house.
Thank you, James.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays.
All that.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
Come and visit us on the web at basicbrewing.com. You can find archive lists of both our audio and video podcasts on home brewing. You can also find our DVDs, Extract Brewing and Partial Mashing, Stepping into All Grain, Low-Tech Lagering and Decoction Mashing, Introduction to Wine Kits, and our Basic Brewing Brewer's Logbook, where you can track and log up to 50 batches of beer. Drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. Write to James at basicbrewing.com, Steve at basicbrewing.com, or just use the contact form on basicbrewing.com.